You had plans, right? Big, beautiful, exciting plans. I did too. My name is Cassandra Yates, and by the time I was 24, I felt like my life was finally, truly beginning. I had just adopted the most perfect little chihuahua and named him Princey. He was my shadow, my little buddy. And I was holding a Pell Grant, all ready to start my first semester at the Southwest University of Visual Arts in Tucson. Interior design. That was it for me. That was my passion. My grandma, Anne, she always told me I had a real talent for it. She said everybody loved the way I decorated my apartment. I loved making spaces beautiful, making them feel like home. I loved the outdoors too. I grew up hiking the Red Rocks in Sedona. When we moved to Tucson, I joined a tournament soccer league. I was active, I had friends, I had a life. And then I met King. You have to understand, it wasn't all bad at the start, but it changed. It changed so fast. He had a darkness in him, a paranoia. He actually told the police he'd been diagnosed with it. He was so terrified that someone was out to kill him, he'd use meth just to stay awake. But the person who was really in danger was me. The story of what happened to me is written in police reports and court records. 7 times. 7 times the system had contact with King before he ended my life. 7 missed opportunities. Let me tell you about them. It started back in 2014. We were married that September, but in November, his own sister had to call 911. She saw him slap me right across the face, and after she called, he looked at her and said, "Well, I should just shoot her." When I tried to run out of the apartment, he pulled me back inside by my hair. When the police came, I was so terrified of what he would do if I talked. I told them he didn't hit me. I said I felt safe. What else could I do? The police said there wasn't enough probable cause to arrest him. That was the first big chance. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my grandparents' house while I was there. He argued with me. He blocked me and my grandma from going inside. My grandpa, Fred, had to call 911. King ran, but they arrested him later. And when the police asked me, I said, he made a mistake by coming to the house. I was trying to protect my family. He was charged, but he was always let go. The incidents just kept coming. In January of 2015, we were fighting in a hotel lobby. He was pushing me over and over. I was so desperate, I jumped behind the counter and begged the clerk for help. But my fear was stronger than my courage in that moment. I left with King before the police could even arrive. I always went back. That's the part people don't understand. The control he had. It felt like quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. Then, in March of 2015, a nurse at a hospital saved my secret. King was admitted, saying he'd been poisoned. He wouldn't let me leave his side. But this nurse, she saw the fear in my eyes. She got me alone for a second and asked me point blank if I was afraid of my husband, and for a moment I was brave. I told her yes. I told her the abuse had been going on for a year. I showed her the bruises on my arms and my legs. I told her that just that morning he had threatened to kill me and then punched me over and over. He was arrested, finally, but the charges were just pending. But the worst, the most terrifying moment before the end was in May of 2015. We were in the car. I still don't know exactly what happened. I felt a sharp, searing pain in my neck. I was bleeding. He had stabbed me in the neck with a knife. I was screaming and crying, begging him to just take me to the hospital. You know what he did first? He pulled over to get rid of the knife. He dropped me off at the hospital and told me to call him when I was done. At the hospital, I was brave again. I told the sheriff's deputies the truth. I said I woke up to the pain and he was holding the knife. The next day, I even agreed to help them. I called him, with the deputy listening, to try and get a confession. He apologized, but the moment I mentioned him stabbing me, he shut down. He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He even said he knew I had him on speakerphone. He was always steps ahead. And then, my fear won again. A few days later, I called the deputy back. I said my memory was coming back. I said his hand must have slipped while he was cutting something in the car. I told them I believed it was an accident. I protected him. I was his victim, and I became his shield. And because of that, the Pima County Attorney's Office declined to prosecute. They said there wasn't a reasonable likelihood of conviction. That was the seventh chance. Just 2 weeks before he killed me, there was one last hope. The police pulled him over and found a Glock in his car. He was a convicted felon. He wasn't allowed to even touch a gun. My family was so relieved. They thought, he's back in jail. He can't hurt her anymore. But the system set his bond at $1,100. And I, the person he had stabbed, punched, and terrorized, I was the one who bailed him out. I paid for my own murderer to walk free. On November 20th, 2016, I was in a friend's apartment. We were in the kitchen. King was there. Our friend stepped out to make a phone call. Then I heard a loud bang. The friend came back and found me on the floor. I was gone. I was 24 years old. She told the police that King looked at her and said, "Do you know how long she's been trying to kill me?" Then he wiped the gun down with a towel, deleted things from my phone, put on a ski mask, and ran. He was found the next day, sleeping in an empty apartment. The gun was nearby. King Yates was convicted of my murder in February 2020 and sentenced to life in prison. He also faces another murder charge for killing his cellmate in jail in 2017. My story isn't just about a crime, it's about a cycle. It's about fear that paralyzes you and a system that, despite its best intentions, couldn't break that cycle in time. I was a daughter, a granddaughter, a student, a dog mom. I loved making things beautiful. If my story does anything, I hope it helps someone see the signs. I hope it encourages a friend to speak up, a family to intervene, a system to look closer. Don't ask why I didn't leave. Ask how we can all do better to save the next Cassandra. My name was Cassandra Yates. Please, remember me.